With this radio telemetry equipment and this directional antenna, we can actually hone in on where the bighorn sheep are. So that's telling me it's back off over here to the east.
Todd Nordine is the manager of the Big Game Disease and Research Program for the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Today, he's tracking bighorn sheep in Sowbelly Canyon near Harrison.
We're just northeast of Harrison, Nebraska, located in the Pine Ridge escarpments of this northwestern part of the state. Pretty unique landscape, and it's ideal for a lot of the big game wildlife that we have out here.
Below the weathered sandstone buttes, the spring-fed Sowbelly Creek ripples through the canyon floor. And wildlife can be spotted throughout the area.
Historically, we had bighorn sheep all over western Nebraska, and there was a lot of bighorn sheep in this region of, the Sowbelly Canyon, Pants Butte area. But unfortunately, in the early 1900s, they were extirpated from the state, and that was primarily due to disease issues and some habitat loss and unregulated hunting.
In the early 1980s, the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission began reintroducing bighorn sheep to the Nebraska Panhandle. Then, in 2012, with the cooperation of a private landowner, bighorns were brought back to Sowbelly Canyon.
Jim Voller, he was very interested in the program. We brought 41 bighorn sheep in from Alberta, Canada, and did a hard release. They thrived and took right off, and our population about doubled, within just a couple of years. But then we began to see a setback, and that occurred in 2014.
The wild sheep became infected with Pasteurella pneumonia. It's treatable in livestock, but not so in wild, free-ranging bighorns.
When bighorns get infected with this, it's actually a bacteria, and it can come from various sources. It's pneumonia, and it generally is fatal. The unfortunate part about those survivors is it's often passed on to the newborn lambs in the following years. We've had successes despite that. We've got approximately 350 bighorn sheep in Nebraska now, and that's in the Pine Ridge and the Wildcat Hills. It's great to be a part of the surveys and seeing the elk and the mule deer and all the big game species and how well they're doing. I grew up in the eastern part of the state, and I certainly enjoyed that region, but coming out to the west and being a part of big game, that's what I enjoyed the most, and that was my future, I guess, in terms of helping do good things for wildlife and in particular big game. So I'm pretty happy out here to be involved with all those species. The bighorn sheep has become, probably one of the most important, I guess, to me. Bighorn sheep's probably the biggest quest at this moment, I guess, to see what we can do to get them back in Nebraska and keep them going.